Look at these wonderful, lovely faces. Oh, and I sound horrible. Hmm.
Oh, there we are. There's my hand in the middle of it. Yeah.
You just have to mute everybody, Nicole, except for yourself.
Okay. Is that why we're getting feedback?
Oh, there's John. We're not muted. Oh, yeah, I'll mute myself.
Right behind your head.
Welcome, everyone. I'm just doing a sound check. It didn't sound great at first, but how are we doing so far? Can you hear me okay? All right, good. Welcome, everyone. It's so nice to see you here. Thank you so much for joining us. Robin Arnitz is our new Deputy Director. She's joining us tonight. We have Marge and Ginny on the call. Thank you so much. The leadership team is here. We've got artists, producers, awardees, friends, family. Welcome. I am Nicole Dement, and I have popcorn. I invite you while we are getting started. I'm just going to spend a few minutes with housekeeping here and introductions, but please get your popcorn, maybe some champagne. This is tea, I promise. I welcome you this evening to this SOLA video watch party, our 2024 edition. This so far is an annual thing because we do videos for our awardees every year. SOLA stands for Support of Old Lady Artists. And Jenny created this wonderful community-based organization in 2016. Since 2017, we have given away $104,000 in cash awards. We also do t-shirts and we do professional development and leadership opportunities for the women that receive the SOLA award. And we also do these videos that you are about to embark upon with me tonight. This year, we had a group of wonderful artists. We always have wonderful artists, but we also brought in these wonderful video producers. And one of them is Devin Munoz with Munoz Motions. And she is going to join us with Jay Coe, our video production manager. Hi, Devin. Hi, Jay. And they are going to join us after the videos for a little insight, kind of behind the scenes of what was this like this year. It was a very special year. So first off, I want to thank you for joining us. SOLA is a community-based organization. Jenny created this based on this creatively generous collective model. Some nonprofits are funded by a single foundation, or maybe there's a millionaire or a billionaire who has some money to give away. SOLA is, Jenny said, I have these beautiful friends that are community oriented, and we see a need in my peers that are under-recognized, but they're accomplished, these women who have been here focused on the cultural fabric of Washington State for pretty much their entire lives. But awardees do, the requirements are that you're 60 years or older and you have dedicated at least 25 years of your career, your life, to your art. Most of them have been much more than that. And I'm super excited about tonight because you're going to learn a lot more about that. So tonight is more than a celebration. Yes, we are here to recognize and know more about these women and their careers and their art. But this is an invitation to reflect on the power of art to tell stories that move, inspire, and connect us. And that is what SOLA does.
It looks like we might have a question here, Nicole.
Okay.
From William.
William, do you have a question? Let's go ahead and put all the questions in the chat. And maybe afterwards we'll have an opportunity to take questions. But do put any questions in the chat. Sound good? Thanks. Sometimes those hands just go up accidentally too. So tonight you are becoming part of a community that uplifts and amplifies under-recognized women's voices through SOLA. So thank you for being here. We would not be here without you. So thank you from the bottom of our paint cans. Tonight, I am really honored to present the 6 artist awardee videos, the SOLA Awardee Video Spotlights. We have videos from Linda Wolf. Her beautiful video was produced, directed, and cinematography and everything by Juliet Wallace of Bioluminescent Films. I have a video from Jan Dove. Jan was a 2024 awardee, and we had Kathy Tuohey and Valerie Vozza produce this video for us, and you're going to see more of their work coming after our December 2nd community call, because we'll be presenting 2 more videos at that time. We have an awardee, Rene Westbrook. Both Linda and Rene were awardees from 2023 that were just getting caught up on their videos. And Rene, we had the honor of working with Seattle College's cable television, SCCtv, for Rene Westbrook's video. Natalie Niblack is a new 2024 awardee, and that wonderful video is produced by John Bowey of Transmediavision USA, all the way from Mount Vernon. And Blanca Santander is a 2023 awardee that, again, we will be talking to Devin. Munoz Motions created this, and then Chadwick Reid, a 2023 awardee that was produced again by Seattle College's cable television, a wonderful partnership that we have with them. So afterward, now this is going to be just over 45 minutes. They're going to be back to back of each of the awardee videos. I'm going to stop talking and you're going to watch. We're going to have lots of champagne and popcorn or tea, whatever. And then we'll have a 5-minute intermission. During that intermission, we're going to introduce a QR code that is an opportunity to donate to SOLA if you are so inclined to give back to us in that way. We'd love to have your support. And we also have a December 2nd community call that we hope is resonant. It's a networking opportunity to celebrate the successes of all of the artists in Washington that join us. So without further ado, join me in this video watch party.
To be truthful, to trust my truth, and listen to my intuition, and be in present time. Those are the things that allow me to be more honest in my work and to elicit honesty from other people. And that's what turns me on. My name is Linda Wolf. I am a photographer and a multimedia artist, a writer, an author, a mother. I am 74 years old. I've been doing photography since I was a teenager. I met my first boyfriend in 1966 when I was 16. And he worked at the Troubadour in Hollywood, and he was 18 at the time. Knew a lot of musicians. I mean, we fell head over heels for each other. He lived at a house called the Gentle Soul House with the band called the Gentle Soul. They were recording with Terry Melcher for Columbia. And I would go over there on the weekends. I was still in high school. Jackson Browne, who had lived at Gentle Soul House, had never recorded before, and so Elektra was giving him some experimental recording sessions, and Sandy was his drummer. And at that house, at that hunting lodge, Paxton Lodge, where we took over the whole place, there was a darkroom. Kenny Jenkins, who was the bass player, took me into the darkroom one day. I watched pictures come out of the soup, and I knew at that point what I wanted to do was be a photographer. That was it. One day, I was asked to take care of a new band, the first all-girl rock band, to be signed to a major label, Fanny. They were coming in, and their producer couldn't meet with them right away, so they asked me if I would take care of them when they first arrived, which I did. And the minute that we met, the girls and I, we knew it was like, you should be one of us. June Millington, the guitarist, had put in a darkroom in the mansion, and she said, here's my father's Leica, why don't you just move in and become our documentary photographer? It was just this incredible girl world of music and art that we had there together in that mansion on Marmont Lane. It was called Fanny Hill, and I was able to live there for about a year and a half before the Cocker Tour. We traveled around the US for 52 shows in 48 cities, all sold out. Had a private plane, Cocker Power on the side. And from there, everybody thought I was a famous photographer. And so I just flew. There were some great ones, and they became iconic and historic. And to this day, I'm known for a lot of those photographs. From there, I fell in love with the idea of going to school in France and studying photography. My parents decided they would send me to a photo school in the south of France with Jean-Pierre Soudre and Claudine Soudre. I sold to the Bibliothèque Nationale, and I sold to the Musée Réatou and the Musée Cantini. And that became the life that I wanted to live. I started by getting a grant to do photographic murals of real people sitting on their bus benches. And my mission was to take advertising off the bus benches and put up the photographs of real people who sat on their bus benches. Then I moved from that into doing billboards and sold a project to Eastman Kodak for the '84 Olympics of real people welcoming real people from around the world to the United States for the '84 Olympics. Now I was older when I started traveling, and I was also steeped in activism. So my seeking of photographs were ones with more meaning as I traveled. And that was what I want. And I wanted to show the diversity of people. I've been very active as a humanist photographer. Humanistic photography is photographs of people, of diversity. And it's been very important to me to promote an understanding worldwide that we are all human beings together on this planet, and that we need to find not just tolerance, but curiosity and acceptance, and expand to include all of us as a human body on this planet so that we can take care of the planet. And this became more of my mission-driven work. Everything that I've done has been really about being human. How it feels to be human, how it feels to be me, how it feels to be a woman. I've done a lot in my life. I've shot rock and roll, I've shot celebrities, I've made photographs of my children, my mother when she was dying. I have started a nonprofit. I started 2 nonprofits. I have written 7 books. I traveled around the world. I've done videos of women all over the world. My life, my career, my engagement with art will just keep continuing on and on. It's one thing that will never end. I don't have like a finish to it. There's no, I'm going to retire from being an artist. I will be an artist for as long as I live.
My brain is my most powerful creative asset. If I can think it, I can make it. If I can make it, I can do it. If I can do it, there it is. And that's the process. That's the process. There is no mystery. I'm Rene Westbrook. I'm a multimedia artist. When I was in art school, I remember it was a playground for me. I could go from, literally flit from the printmaking class to a sculpture class to a painting class to a drawing. I remember speaking to someone who became a mentor to me, and he said to me one day, "What is wrong with you? Why do you want to specialize when it's clear you have the facility to do so much more? Why would you limit yourself?" When I answer the question about being multimedia, multifaceted, multi-layered, that's what I'm talking about. You know, I spent a lot of time in theater. I spent a lot of time with photography. I spent a lot of time in painting and drawing. And to me, that's how I never become bored. The ideas come to me at different times. Some are more hot, meaning if there's a relevant idea. It's like the Gazan war right now. I've done several works on that because it's not only relevant, but it's heartbreaking. You know, it's very heartbreaking, and therefore the immediacy of that I must address. I'm always using those issues as constructs to explore and work through in layers so that I can make these things clear to anyone who's interested. I was born in Harlem. My early education was there. I had Black teachers. I had a Black family, immigrant family, and father worked very, very hard to up and coming, he went to war at a very young age, World War II, came back, helped put his sister through nursing school, other sisters. He was a dynamo and moved us to Westchester County. We went to a place where there were racially and politically limited. Also, there were in that time there were lots of up and coming people. There were many, many examples. Even though I lived in Harlem, all the people, the dentists, the doctors, the teachers, they all lived in Harlem. So we were surrounded by up and comers, people who did things, and also there was this understanding that you must succeed. There wasn't any question. They're going to you expect them to put the barriers there. Your job is how high, because if it's that's it, that's all you got. Well, I came of age as a hippie. I was a flower child, and to this day, I'm a hippie. One of the most important things that I learned from James Baldwin, who I knew in the latter part of his life, he imparted some very, very powerful things to me. Well, besides being friendly and fun and, was such a gas to hang out with him because that boy can smoke and drink and talk like nobody else, right? But he would say to me, "Nay, when your house is on fire, baby, you can't sit this out. You know, I mean, that's how he would say it. You know, when your house is on fire, you can't just turn away. You can't do the tepid thing. He would say the importance of the writer, the artist, the dancer, the filmmaker, whomever you are as a creative person, you're the one that they're going to look to because you're the dynamic force in society. You are the one who makes the way from no way. It's important that it has substance and style and context, and there's a social contract that I present. And I live in this world, so I'm responsible for what I add to it. I always keep my viewer in mind, not in the sense of whether they like it or not. It's the hieroglyphs of hate, and it's all the awful stuff that racism bestows upon us, right? And all of these are different configurations of the positions that cops and racism have put Black people in. But making it cogent enough, making it clear enough, making it visually stimulating enough, making the visual intelligence that I possess accessible. I'm a great contemplator. I think that's why living the way I do in my own world, in my space, it gives me great time and effort to think about these things. Art is not linear for the most part. You know, even if you have an idea and you put it on paper, and by the time it flowers, it blooms into something that even you didn't realize was coming down the pike. And that's the beauty. That's what keeps me still working after 50 years. I'm still there going, am I good enough? Have I mastered this technique enough? Have I been able to finesse it enough to say I can do this? I've had some evidence of that because I've been awarded in sculpture, I've been awarded in painting and photography, you know. I even got this obscure little third place medal for poetry from the International Society of Poets. Well, I was extremely happy to discover that I had won the SOLA. Another artist who had won the SOLA encouraged me to apply. And I was just so happy that I had been in the league of these very powerful women artists. That, more than anything, means a lot to me. Being a SOLA awardee is that I get to talk about that process of the longevity of the work, the hows and the whys and the wherefores of being able to sustain oneself as an artist. And a lot of that is because I have learned the power of adapting. I know how to adapt both my style, my environment. I have had a day job as an artist all my life, or a creative person all my life, because I made the difficult decision to step out of the box of this is all I am into the world of I can do anything as a creative person. And that's what's made the difference to me. There is no one answer for my process. Breathing is my process. What comes of that is the result. And if I can breathe, I can think. If I can think, I can feel. If I can feel, I can work. If I can work, I can accomplish. If I can accomplish, something is done. And each one teach one. The reason I get to that end is so I can then have something of substance to give to the next.
When I look back on my body of work, I think of it as traveling. I went to many different places and had many different experiences, and my art is like that. There's many different expressions of what I do, but it's all what I do. My name is Jan Dove, and I'm a generic artist. My father was military, so we moved a lot when I was a kid. Finally settled down in the Bay Area. I went to Catholic school, so I got a very good education, Latin, French, you know, all of the classics. I think I got one of the last classic educations, but I couldn't take art because I was supposed to go to college. And I was the first one in my family to go to college. I have a degree in printmaking. Then when I went to graduate school, I learned about making artist books. So I do a lot of artist book making. And then when I went to work in a community college in Berkeley, I learned about digital art, and I have never turned back. My studio practice is a combination of all of that. I love to draw the figure. I love to get lost in finding the form. In developing an image, I might take some of the line, little pieces of the line, and put them together with my digital photographs to make more images and discover new forms. I watch to see what words that will bring to my mind, and then I start writing. And writing in the last 5 or 10 years has become an integral part of the artist books I make. Vegetation past enduring rock, past secret crevices, back to the blue-eyed jackdaw's closing speech. There is no other way to go. I love the Art Institute in Chicago. I got a full scholarship to go there. I chose to go to graduate school because I realized that I could get 2 more years to make art without having to explain why to anybody. I had to take an elective, and I just happened to sign up for this bookbinding class, and the teacher was Joan Flash. She was a wonderful teacher, and I learned about making artist books in the way that the content and the form of the book came together to make a completely new kind of art. The viewer became part of the book because of the interactivity that you built into the book. This was one of the first books I made. I was waitressing in a piano bar on west side of Chicago, and I came home with bar tabs. I would draw on the tabs when I wasn't busy. And so I made this book about 3 pretzels, because we always had pretzels there. Creativity comes from playing and curiosity. I start from a place of play. I always start from a place of play. Most people made a book. I made this book. And you can see that inside is what the postman gets when he picks up our postcards. Even when I'm thinking about things that are pretty dark, the physical act of it starts from a place of play, and I watch to see what happens. Oh, you know, I made it backwards, that's okay. This is a project that has to do with my feelings on the environmental crisis that we're in. It's 10 3-line poems. This one says, "What has happened here? What can we say to the land? Trembling dragonflies." And there are going to be 10 of them in a box that I make to hold them together. After the Art Institute, I had a child to raise by myself, and I needed money. So I got a job teaching at the community college in San Luis Obispo. And from there, I took on a class teaching drawing at the local prison and encountered some very good students and some very interesting experiences. I discovered the inmate's style, which was very, very tight, methodical, and time-consuming. So I learned a lot about how to incorporate this time-consuming kind of energy in my art without losing my spontaneity. You can see it in the embroidery, this piece that's going to take 2 years, and it has to do with trees and the clear cut of trees and how that makes me feel. It's a long way from printmaking, but not so much. There's a bunch of us old lady artists who went camping one summer, and we were sitting around drinking wine and exchanging stories, and we started talking about being old and getting old. And I listened and I said, you know, there's an artist book in there. So Lucia Harrison and I worked together, we collaborated, and we joined up our experiences into this book, which is an essay about time as a linear thing and time as a circular process. It's a series of concentric circles. So on the outer circle of this Fauvel, I have written stereotypes for being old, such as archaic, getting on. And then on the second circle, I have our experiences as we were talking about that night at the campfire. You know you're vintage when you enter a room and cannot remember why. When I'm working, the most enjoyable part for me is watching the thing grow. The process of letting it become, that's the thing I really love. I have been blessed with the privilege of living my life as an artist, and I just feel like the luckiest person in the world.
My name's Natalie Niblack, and I am a visual artist. Even from a little kid, I would make things a lot. Wherever I was, I lived in a world of imagination. And it was just the outside world intruding on what my natural impulse was, and I finally admitted that and just went for it. I went to college and tried to get an English degree, and finally went to what's called a commercial art school and decided I didn't like working for other people. And then I just started painting. And from there, I was gone. That was it. I was committed for the rest of my life. In school, there was the general opinion that if you majored in the art, in visual art, you could never make a living. So I tried doing a lot of other things. And I wasn't really caught by anything except painting and fine art. Eventually, I finally convinced myself that that was what I wanted to do, no matter what. So it took a while. As a young painter, I did standard things. I did a lot of figurative work from the model, and I did a lot of still lifes, and I did a lot of derivative things that were copying artists that I liked. And then one day I had to, a bird landed in my property, and it was a holiday, and it had a broken wing, and I called up my neighbor who studied birds and asked him what to do about it, and he said that the best thing to do would be to kill it quickly, because it wouldn't survive anyway. And so I painted it after it was dead, and then that actually set me off on what I think of as my first work that was original. It's kind of ironic that I'm doing birds now, because that's kind of how I started, because my neighbor, who was a bird scientist, he kept giving me birds, and I did a lot of still lifes with the birds, and that was my first real unique body of work. And then after that, I went on to other work, but I had my own voice at that point. Then in graduate school, I had to reinvent myself, so I just started doing found object work. I was in Scotland and I would go to car boot sales and jumble sales and buy lots of toys, and I did work with toys that ended up, of course, being kind of disturbing. When I returned, I did a lot of work with dolls, continuing with the toys, and highly influenced by the Italian late Gothic to Baroque paintings, and also by all the saints. I did a lot of work in graduate school and after around using female saints as the vehicle to talk about women's self-image and how we are taught to believe that our value is in what we look like, not who we are. The fabric work was just the pleasure of painting was one of the main impulses of just blending paint and creating these forms and stuff. You know, I did all the doll work, and a lot of people's response to the doll was, "Ew, creepy." You know, it was like I'm talking about other things besides that. It's like I was using the dolls as avatars for human activities and as saints and gods and stuff like that. And it was very annoying that a lot of people could not get past the creepy. So I started out throwing a drapery over a bunch of them and then painting the drapery, and then I started getting into the drapery because the wonderful thing about the human mind is this pareidolia that happens, where when you see kind of chaotic forms, like a bunch of leaves or wood grain, people will make a face out of it, or they will make some kind of form out of it that isn't there. And I liked playing with that. I liked just making these mysterious draped forms, like what are they? I started doing these big drawings of drapery falling out of the sky into water. And there's a lot of symbolism in there with the water and the descent into the unconscious and all that kind of stuff. But the drapery, often I would get responses from people of like, "Why are you throwing skirts in the air?" and stuff like that. And I just thought it was wonderful. I mean, I want it to be whatever your mind makes it. I don't want it to be something that I made it necessarily. When Trump got elected, and the lead up to his election, like I said, I do work about things that disturbed me, and I really found it therapeutic to do the three-ring circus that was the Trump administration. And I got such delight in doing him, in doing Mitch McConnell, in doing Rudy Giuliani, and just having a blast lampooning them because they deserve to be lampooned. So the first paintings I did about climate change had to do with the oil trains and coal trains that went past about a mile from here. There was controversy about building a export facility at Cherry Point, and I went to a lot of those protests and I went to the meetings and all that kind of stuff. And I started doing oil train explosions, and that led to other work. Once I started looking into how many accidents happen in the oil industry with refineries exploding and pollution, that really galvanized me to continue doing a lot more work around the damage that the fossil fuel industry is doing to the climate. And then also thinking about our participation in that. as consumers in the consumer society. And so in a lot of my drawings and paintings, this little guy came in, and he's a little representative of the happy little consumer. Then there was an event that happened where migratory birds were pushed further east from the west coast, and by huge fires, and then pushed on the other side by really cold weather. So the migratory birds didn't have enough food, and there were 1 million birds that fell from the sky at the New Mexico border. So that eventually led to the work about 66 birds, 3 degrees, which is based on a National Audubon study, which predicts, based on where you live, on what will happen to the bird species in your area at 1.5, 2, and 3 degrees warming. And that was very upsetting to me, looking at what birds may not be here if that actually comes true. And so I decided to do work around it. And that's what I've been doing for the last 2.5 years. I also felt like I needed to talk more about birds that were recovering from extinction events fomented by human beings. So it feels like a more hopeful message that recovery is possible if we do the right thing. So that's kind of where I'm going with this. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, and I'm going to do more of it. I think doing work about climate change is so essential for my own sanity and for using it to educate other people and express to other people how much of an urgent thing this is. Yeah, until I'm senile and can't pick up a paintbrush anymore.
My roots, my Pachamama came in my heart, and I start to paint her because Pachamama also is a woman. I admire the strength of women. I saw firsthand how they resolve problems, how they maintain the family together in extreme circumstances. That for me is Pachamama. My name is Blanca Santander. I'm a visual artist. When things affect me, in a way, can be political things, injustice, things like that. For me, I need to drop this, what is inside me that is bothering me. So I draw. I remember I draw that on the floor, not even in my studio. I start to draw because something motivated me to do it. And I did that, and I finished and say, that's it. With the project I did 2020 about children incarcerated on the border, I think it's really important to speak up. I was preparing an exhibit about that municipal tower in downtown, but everything gets suspended with COVID. I decided to make a video, so I make soft sculptures, give a life to those kids where their testimonies were really strong. And I put this video in schools and in many places I can, so I can share the voice of these kids who were suffering. Yeah. For me, especially, it's really hard when you touch children. Because I work for these non-profits, I travel different places in my country. And in one occasion, I went to the jungle and the terrorists grabbed me there. And I almost died because I have a pistol in my stomach for probably 3 hours. They were telling me that I'm gonna finish, I'm gonna end my days there. But I was thinking in my family, in all the people that I know. I had a strong feeling that this is not it. I need to finish the circle. I didn't finish what I came to this world for, and that was a really strong feeling. My nerves were destroyed. I was like all the time like looking around, looking who is behind me. I was kind of paranoid. So I say, no, it's time to move, time to go. So I moved here. Almost unconsciously, I came here and say, hey, I'm here. I start to build from there. I restart here. Really, I restart here. After I have my boy and my boy start to go to school, I volunteered to do art with children for the actions. Started doing beautiful things with the kids, and I start saying, I didn't know I have this kind of talent for working with kids. This worked out really good. When I do art with them, I help one kid in that way. Is for me, is they made my day. It's like, okay, I'm good for this. I'm doing good. And now I'm doing public art. For example, I'm doing a mural on the 50th Avenue. That is one project I'm doing. But these years I was doing a big project like the Odessa Brown Children's Clinic. I did 15 murals there. For the dental treatment area. My other huge job was airport with Bezos Foundation. Huge mural for immigrants and refugees. Latinos, we don't have too many opportunities here, lamentably. Some doors are closed or difficult to open. Not in all the cases, but the times I exhibit here was because people invite me, or I create exhibits for Latinos here. So I did the first exhibit with 8 Latino artists, like 80 paintings. I'm glad I did that. I demonstrate the Latina can do this, and did really well. My work is spiritual, really spiritual. If you see my work, you're gonna see elements, symbols of spirituality in my work. Because all what happened in my life, all the things I saw, the suffering of people in my country of 18 years of terrorism, the suffering of kids, instead of showing sorrow, I want to show happiness. It's something I have in my brain. Actually, I eliminate the black of my palette. All my work is always full color. When I have time, I focus on my women of courage, because nothing is pushing me to exhibit this or that. Many of them are, people forget about them. They don't give them the value they deserve. It's kind of a celebration of them. I want to celebrate these women who change our world for all of us. But I think it's important to recognize women in history who changed the world for good. If you're gonna do art, help yourself, watching other artists, learning from them, but always be yourself. Always express yourself in your way and what you think is right.
When my mother passed away, I painted a small bird, and I wasn't sure what to do with this bird that was isolated in an open blank page. And I happened to go to the Vancouver Art Gallery and see an exhibition of Chinese cut paper, which is where the technique comes from. And I knew when I saw it that that was what I was going to do. I was going to fill the background with this cut paper. That was in 2006. And by 2008, I was firmly committed to it. I'm a cut paper artist. And what that means is that I use a lot of X-Acto knives with a number 11 blade to cut paper imagery. I was drawn to the black paper, unlike Chinese paper, which is red, because it has sort of a funereal quality to it, but it also really is something that becomes a metaphor for the kind of threat that climate change is. I really look at my work as a discussion or a conversation, or perhaps we could say it's a plea to people to recognize what's really around them in the natural world and to be cognizant of climate change and how it's impacting the way that we live our lives. When I first moved to Samish Island, I used to do a lot of walking and meet a lot of people. And I heard that there was sort of a conversation about, should you remove trees for a view or keep the trees? And I thought, well, gee, maybe trees are a view as much as the water is a view. So I did a piece called Tree Trap, 2 trees with a trap that's running in between them. And the idea was that trees, unfortunately, fall victim to how humans want them to be seen. And that was the first time that I actually had a cut paper piece that was what I consider devoted to climate change. Paper cutting has always been a folk craft. You can find it all over the world, not only in China, but in Northern Europe and Mexico. And as a craft, it may not have sort of the hierarchy that a painting or a piece of sculpture has. And sometimes in the past, I think that my work has not been seen as maybe other than a craft. But crafts are as valuable as any other kind of art making. And I don't find today that there's too many problems with recognizing it as such. Well, I never really know what it is I'm going to make. I know what I'm going to make it about. So the first thing I do is look up what are the elements that I'm going to be working with. I'm looking at all the different kinds of species, their terminology, and how they interrelate with the habitat that they're in. I look that up so that I can see what the shapes are. I've also become very interested in terminology that we are using that we didn't use before since climate change is in the forefront. I'm starting to put that kind of language in my work as well. I'm also starting to make some three-dimensional pieces. It creates such interesting shadows, and I think it really adds a whole nother dimension in that, we don't normally think of as paper cuts in three-dimensional form. I also am using cut paper because paper is really fragile, like the planet. And when you bend paper, it has a memory and you can't really ever pull it back to where it naturally was. So I think of it as something that sort of, again, becomes a metaphor for what's going on in the world today. I would like to think that if people see my work, that it would give them an idea about going outside and being in nature. Going into a forest, taking a hike, going to the beach, and living that experience slowly, looking around you and noticing what it is that you're seeing and finding your place in it. I decided that maybe I better get involved a little bit more if I was living here, and so now I monitor herons for a heron foraging study, and I also pick up beach debris. It was such a tremendous event to be recognized by SOLA. You know, I'm a rural artist. I'm not in the center of the art world, and so to have someone recognize my lifelong passion for making art was really special for me. A lot of people ask me when I'm going to cut with colored paper. I tell them, when we see climate change turn around, I will move to colored paper.
All right, my friends, we've got 5 minutes intermission here, so grab some popcorn, a little more champagne maybe. I'll see you soon. Welcome back. I love to see all of your faces out there still. Thank you so much for being here. We've got a watch party going on at Natalie's house, it looks like. All right. So this part of the wonderful celebration tonight is going to feature Jay. Here's Jay, our previous video production manager. So excited to be here with you, Jay. Thanks for joining us.
Hi everyone, my name is Jay, and I initially started to work with SOLA as one of the producers for the 2019 awardee project featuring Mary Koss. And then that wonderful collaboration led to a great honor this year to manage the whole spotlight project for this amazing 2023-2024 awardees from April to October.
And what great work you did, Jay. It was so great to work with you. And so you are in Seattle at the moment, but you spent a majority of the time as video production manager where?
Right, in South Korea. So I do have a production background in South Korea. I was a TV producer there. So I spent most of my time in South Korea for SOLA. Nicole allowed me this remote job opportunity. So I was honored to manage this project in Korea.
It worked fantastically. Thank you, Jay. We're going to come back to you in a second, but I want to just highlight Devin Munoz real quick. Welcome, Devin.
Hello, hello.
Devin, we've had the luck and joy of working with you on several video projects. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Munoz Motions, and I just can't say your name, your business name tonight.
It's okay.
Must be all this tea I'm having. Tell us a little bit about you, please.
Yeah, I'm a videographer and photographer in Seattle. I kind of do a little bit of everything from my own artistic background as a dancer and a performer on stage to family portraits, artist headshots, videography, and specifically what I like to call purposeful archives. So nothing just sitting on a tripod, but more trying to bring the connection of artists or folks who are actively working in the community in any capacity. And how do we make sure that they aren't forgotten or their work continues to move forward?
So good. So good. So this is a great opportunity to mention that we have done many, I think the number is 16, maybe 17 previous SOLA awardee videos. And Devin, we were able to work with you on how many others? Do you remember? And can you tell us the previous ones?
That is a really good question. I think I did 4 last year, 3 last year. Yeah.
Well, I know Carol Guthrow, I think you worked with Carol and Joan, Lisa Snow Lady, who's on here. Welcome. Joan Stewart Ross, and then Blanca this time around.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I'm going to remove the pin. And now, Jay, Devin, will you please work with me here to share a little bit of this behind the scenes? Like what was it like to work with such accomplished, mature women? And is there maybe something that was the most surprising or inspiring part of filming these artist stories and working with these women in particular? Do you have a specific one? I know they're all incredible.
I guess I can go first.
Thanks.
I mean, just getting to get an idea of like how far artistry can be and like how long people can be in art for is really inspiring. Trying to think of, I think I remember being in Joan's studio last year, and the casual nature of like Yeah, I do this, and it kind of showed up in every video process that I got to be a part of, which is really awesome of like, this is just who I am, how I express myself. And finally, people get to hear more about it. But there was a lot of a casual cadence when it came to people talking about their own work, which I think is really cool, but also made my job a lot of fun to get to pull more information out of people. Just because I feel like as any artist, we're great behind the scenes, just not so much in front of them. So getting to work with each individual artist from last year to this year with Blanca, and getting to spend more time with Blanca this year, just because we got to do some extra shoots in there. It felt really sweet to get to have some time working on the video. And just, it was a longer process than just a couple of weeks.
It was an incredible process to work with you as well. Thank you so much on all of those. So we are going to put the playlist for the SOLA Awardee videos on our YouTube channel in the chat. So make sure to go and check those out. Jay, do you have any thoughts on, I know there was a lot. Jay was integral to each of the videos that you saw, and it was amazing to be able to have her support and her direction as well, because she came with so much experience. And again, Mary Kloss was one of the previous awardees that benefited from Jay and her team working on it last year. So check out that video for sure. But Jay, please, any inspirations that you want to share or surprising moments?
I feel like the diversity of team collaborations made each video truly special and beautiful. To give you a bit of background information, there were 5 production teams and 6 awardees, as there are 6 videos, right? So featured in this project, so each bringing unique dynamics that enriched every project. So with awardees from such different backgrounds, from Latin to Black background, every story stood out in its own inspiring way, and the stunning videography and exceptional storytelling captured by all of the producers brought these stories to life very powerfully. So I remember Blanca's Latin stories and Rene's story also. And then I also remember Linda's unwavering passion to the details. So yeah, so in general, the artists' inspiring stories, their lifelong dedication to their art have motivated me at every step of the way.
I love that. Yeah, those are those stand out to me. And, Jay, working with you, we've had a lot of conversations about what it's like to be a woman in the world. And I love that you come from a place where it's a very different culture for women in South Korea, and even in South Korea. And we had a lot of conversations about what it was like to see these women stand up, be featured, be vulnerable, and share their stories, both for you and, I don't know, do you think you're going to maybe make some of these in South Korea with all the things that you do? Are you inspired at all to move forward in any way and in that way?
Of course. My boyfriend, who's also the producer in South Korea, we were talking about like an opportunity to maybe make this project come true in Korea maybe one day, because I feel like this is very great opportunity and very great connection, the bridge for women to showcase their experience and their artwork, which truly deserves. So yeah, I'm actually thinking about it, and then maybe hopefully I can deliver a great news if that comes true.
I look forward for sure hearing all about that. So either one of you can dive into this one. Were there any challenges that you faced in capturing the essence and supporting the essence of the artist's work? Anything that comes to mind? And I know everything that went on behind the scenes. So there were some challenges, but what comes to mind that you might want to share, and how did we overcome that?
I can give you some time, Jay, because you went through a lot of projects.
She did.
Yeah, I mean, I think having a time constraint on a video is like the biggest challenge. So many of these artists, like you have mentioned, have been working for 20 plus years. So trying to find the narrative of like what's important to put in a video, what's maybe not as crucial to have, but at the same time, it's like when you're sitting interviewing someone, you get to see like different parts of them and how that's kind of influenced their work. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge for any editor producer on any of these videos is like, well, what do we share? Because each video we could probably do 30 minutes each easily.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big challenge too, and just trying to make sure nothing gets convoluted and keeping that communication going between artists and also like, also being a little bit more pushy on like, no, you should share more. So yeah, I think that's kind of something that came up, at least for me on my end.
Thank you for that. Yeah. So many times. Devin, how many hours on Blanca alone? And this is not just Blanca, but typically, how many hours worth of video do we actually capture? Hours.
Yeah. I had the privilege of interviewing Blanca for our first round, and I think we hung out for like almost 3 hours. And yeah, that included coffee and snacks and chatting. So, when you're rolling, sometimes you just let it go and you don't stop it. So I think I had about 2 hours of footage from that. And then another session was like another hour. So it's really hard to get through that and try and cut it down as much as possible. And it feels like a podcast to me when I'm, editing. I just have it in my ear and I'm doing my stuff. And then I turn around, I hit the time and I'm like, okay, this is the time frames that should work. So yeah, it definitely takes a long time to get through that. Anything that you edit, I say double in time of what you have in raw footage. And then from there, you usually use about 20% of what you shoot. So it's definitely gets narrowed down.
And most of our videos, I know we bunch them all together, but they run between 6 and 9 minutes. So that take 3 hours and all of the incredible information that we capture from each of these women. And then every once in a while, it breaks my heart, but they tell us, I don't want that to be on the video. Those are the moments too, when I really want to tell you, but that's for the book later, the SOLA book. Jay, do you have anything that you want to share?
Well, yeah, adding to that, I think it's very difficult especially for producers to capture really concise but great enough inspiring stories in such a short minutes, like 6 to 8 it's pretty short compared to the longevity of the great work this amazing artists have done. So I think that was the most primary struggles that producers had. And I see John here. Hi, John. And I think John was saying something like this as well. So maybe, do you want to share something more about this?
John, you are welcome to unmute and share anything. Yeah.
When I started editing way too many years ago, one of the things I was told was that the definition of editing is trying to put 12 pounds of shopping in a 6-pound bag. And in terms of working with someone like Natalie, who's got such a broad spectrum of work, it's not just a large body of work, it's such a range of work. And how do you high grade that? How do you break that down? And that was a major challenge. But some challenges make you pull your hair out, and other challenges are just great to work with and get immersed in. And working on this project was such a breath of fresh air for me, such a change from what I've been doing recently. So it was a gift. Thank you.
Thank you, John, so much. all of the producers and all of the directors and cinematographers. I really just want to say thank you so much for all that you did. You know, that there were a bunch of 12 pounds of groceries in 6-pound bags for all of them. So you're incredible. The work is incredible. The artists. So now that we're all here on gallery view, can we just, like, however we want to do it, to celebrate these women for the work that you're doing. Thank you and congratulations. And you are the cultural fabric of this state. So I can't celebrate you enough. And I really do thank you for all of the work. And I need to do that. And I want to just thank Jenny Ruffner for starting this organization, and Marge Levy, who is also on the leadership team. If there's anything else did we have anything in the chat, Robin, that people want to know before we? Absolutely awesome. I completely agree. Thank you, Paula.
There were just lots of really lovely comments. So thank you for all of your support and your beautiful words to these artists.
Yeah, agreed. I think we can all echo that easily. All right. I think that we have watched, we have partied, and this has been recorded and will be on YouTube. The individual videos will be up also. So I encourage you, in this recognition, it is about sharing. We created these for you to share, and especially take all of these to your holiday dinners and share them with family, share them with friends. The way to get recognized is by community, and that is exactly what we're here to do. So thank you. Thank you. I'll see you again soon. Thank you, Jenny. Good night.